Hey, can everyone listen, please? Pretty please, up here. Guys, stop talking. Shh. Hush. Just a reminder, our sketchbook, I bumped the due date to Friday, I think, for sketchbook number 2.
Oh, I need a new sketchbook.
I don't have any more sketchbooks, but you can use your art journal. And if you need more paper in the art journal, I can put it in there.
Okay.
Cool. So we're all good on sketchbook? Requirements. Don't just write the word. Fill up the page. I put color on this one, but you can use value if you want to shade. Okay, cool. So this worksheet, we're basically messing with like the intensity of a color. And we've already kind of done that with tints, tones, and shades, which is that like value scale that we did before the color mixing challenge. So this might be just a little bit of a refresher for some of you. But we can use, a cool thing about colors that you can use like complementary colors, mix them together to create different like shades. So we're going to practice that today. On the bottom of the worksheet, the description is reverse of what this says. So just go along with the words up here like tints and shades and then complementary colors and not the description, but I'll show you how to do that in a minute. Okay, cool. For the first one, we're just going to make a value scale mixing red and green. So we're going to put red on one side, green on the other, and in the middle they're going to kind of converge together and mix, right? So all you do is start with your red. And just paint some red on the scale. And this acrylic, if you remember, it dries like super fast. So I'm kind of like, I'm not putting a ton of paint on here, but I'm not just putting a little tiny, teeny tiny layer. Got quite a bit. Cool. So I got my red. And then after you get some red on there, just grab the green, stick it on the scale, paint that in. And then in the middle here, they're going to mix. So the red and green will come together. My color doesn't like to show up on here. If you can't really see the colors on the board, I know that it doesn't show up that well sometimes. There's another completed version of this hanging next to the color wheel. You can look at that for reference. Cool. Does this make sense? So we're just mixing two complementary colors together.
Yeah.
To change the intensity. And then the next one's yellow and purple. I mixed my own purple because the purple paint isn't amazing right now, so your purple may look a little different than mine. That's okay, just as long as it's purple. Blue and red. Blue and red make purple. No, I just start with the one on the left out of habit.
Any left-handed?
No, I'm right-handed. It'd be cool if I were.
I am none. I am none.
Oh my gosh, mine look terrible on this. I swear they don't look like that bad. If they're not completely fluid, it's okay. This acrylic just dries so fast sometimes it's hard to get it to mix in true. Yeah, maybe I can zoom in. Ugh. Let me see if I can mess with the color on this. I don't know why it's not right more than that. Yeah. Ah! Okay.
Alright, how's it going? Good, good.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Acrylic likes to dry before we can finish.
Oh no. Awesome, they're looking good. Yeah, just make sure you have some overlap.
People can go around, I'll help you get a palette.
What's the palette?
Right up here.
Oh, let's keep going.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, I
Keep
don't know.
going. You guys have to come here? Working part.
I know, always does that.
What's gotta be eat pain? Like, what gotta be swallowed?
That would not be good.
Is pain poisonous?
I don't know. This paint,
There's a chemical.
I do not recommend eating it, of course. It probably would at least make your stomach hurt. I would have to check on the internet. It's poisonous, but it might be. It's acrylic is like plastic based. And even when it's plastic, so you probably don't want to eat acrylic.
What's paint made out of? How do they make paint?
That's a good question. I know the basics. I don't know a lot about that. You know, they may have done it how it's made in Italy. You don't need ground. You don't need ground.
Yeah.
Alright, here we go.
Yeah, perfect.
And then go grab a water bucket and I'll bring the work to you, okay?
I can understand that. That's how I'm looking at
That goes into the closet, and then
the sweetest thing.
and then it's the next one.
Yeah.
Morning classroom, huh?
Not even allowed in the house. Okay, that I don't know. No, it's locked.
What are they doing in the classroom next door?
That is like ceramics.
And the
What are they doing there?
They make clay stuff. So if you want to put okay, there's a towel.
We're gonna teach in the class across the street. Across the hall.
That's his house.
What are they doing there?
Yeah.
One second. Let me find the paper for you.
Yeah. And again, he's not. He's in there focusing. Yeah, but
Okay, everyone doing good?
obviously does, but I can't mix it.
So the other one here, I'll show you the codes and shades one real quick. So when you get down to the bottom, we're going to use tones and shades just like we did on tints, tones, and shades on those value scales. Sorry, tints and shades, not tones. So on the left side, there we go. It says tints and shades. You can look at this little scale right here as an example, and you can kind of copy what's going on there. But it's just talking about like how to shade. You see our highlight, that's where our light source is coming from. So you can imagine there's like a lamp or something on that side of the object. And then as we shade it gets gradually and gradually darker, right? So for the tints and shades, you're gonna use, just pick one color. I'm gonna pick red. So you can see on the example up here that your like true color would probably be happening on like the medium tone on the object, right? Does that make sense?
So what are we doing on here?
I'll come talk to you about the top part in just a second. But if you want to do the bottom part with us, go ahead and start there, and then I'll come over and show you how to do the top part, okay? Okay. Hey, is everyone listening? Are you guys listening? Thank you. Cool. So we're going to do tints and shades. So I'm going to put down my true red about right here. And then since I'm creating a tint, what do I add when I make a tint?
White.
White. I'm just going to add in some white up here. And then when I get to the very top, I probably want to add even more white, because that's like the highlight. That's the lightest part.
And then for the bottom, you add black, right?
Yes, so when I create a shade, I would add black. And you see I'm going through and I'm like kind of blending this a little bit.
Yeah.
So after you lay those colors down, you can kind of blend it. But be careful if you have a bunch of red on your brush again, you're just going to smear it everywhere. So yeah, that's right. At the bottom, I want to create a shade. So I'm going to add a little bit of black. And remember, like, black goes a long way. You don't need a lot.
Oh, cool thing is with the pen, if you wash it in the bucket, you can see clouds of it in there, right?
Yeah, isn't it cool how that happens?
Now,
I think I added a little bit too much black, so I'm going to go back through with some red and try to blend it in. It's easy to get too much.
Why do you like art?
Huh?
Why do you like art?
Like what?
Is art your favorite?
Art? Is it my favorite thing?
Yeah.
I guess so. I like art, yeah. I just like making stuff.
Do you want to become an art teacher?
I don't know just yet. That is a question I ask myself often.
So, yeah.
All right, cool. So I'm just going back through and working on my shading to make this look good, blending it in. I know this is hard to see on the. Oh my gosh, I swear this looks better not on the camera. My camera just won't lighten up. So this bottom circle is the cast shadow. So that means that it's the shadow that the object is casting. Like, you know, if you're outside and you raise your hand up and the sun is up in the sky and you see the shadow on the ground, this is the same thing. The object is just casting a shadow. So to create the cast shadow, I'm just going to take a little bit of red and black again. It should be pretty dark, and then paint that in. All right, does that make sense? Okay, the square is, or the cube, sorry, it's a form, so it's a cube. The cube is a little bit different than the circle because, you know, when we do the sphere, we've got all of this like blending going on. When we have a cube, what happens is that usually each face of the cube will have its own just kind of solid color. You might have some blending, but since it's such a rigid object, each plane of the cube will typically just have like its own color going on. I'm just going to use red again because I like red. And the face of the cube over here, I'm just going to paint red. Okay, cool. So, first side of the cube is just the color. So red, I'm using red.
What about complementary colors?
I'm going to get to that one next. So then the top of the cube, we said you would use white because you're creating a tint. So that'll be a pretty light color.
I believe these brushes are long enough so they doesn't get over your hand.
Yeah, that's very true. And then the other side, we're going to use black to create a shade, right? So I'm going to use black and red. So it'll be darker. And then I'm going to use black and red for my cast shadow. Cool. All right, any questions about that one? Cool. So when you create the complementary colors, you can look up to your scale. And I know you don't have your scale yet. I'll come show you. But pick one of these. On my example I used earlier, I picked orange and blue. I think that's what I did. Oh, sorry, wrong one. I picked red and green on the square, and then I did yellow and purple on the sphere. And this is what that looks. Mine is opposite on this worksheet because I didn't read it right. So I'm just going to do blue and orange this time on my sphere. And the color that is like lighter would be orange, right? In my case. If you are using yellow and purple, you'll want to use the yellow first. If you're using red and green, you'll probably want to use green up top. So I'm just going to go ahead and sit my orange down. And since we're not creating tints or shades, so we're not using black or white for this one. We're only using the complementary colors. So I'm going to paint in the top part of my sphere orange. And then I'm going to add a little more paint further down so that I can blend it. And then bring the blue in. or, whatever color you chose. So in this case, my blue would be my darker color instead of creating a shade. And then you can go back through and kind of blend that in a little bit. Wow, you can't tell because the light. Here's what mine look. Can you all see that? I can come around with this.
For the bottom part, like the flat part, it's supposed to be the shade.
Mm-hmm.
Do you add black to the darker color?
No, you're just gonna add do you mean the cast shadow?
Yeah.
So for that one, I'm just gonna mix blue and orange on my palette. Since blue is kind of the more like darker, intense color, I'm gonna use a lot of blue and a little orange. And I know you can't see it well on the board because my camera, but it's like a dark. I have like a dark green going on here. I'll come around with this. So
Yeah, you can
The orange, yeah, it's blue. Orange is blue. It makes it dark. Yeah, so whatever color first, you only use.
Alex gave me a fluorescent orange.
You can choose any color.
Yeah, so you need to make sure they're complementary. These are all complementary, the yellow and purple, red and green, or green and orange. And they're crossing each other on the.
Oh, I see that.
In the closet, I do, if you go in there, it's the left is the orange, they're white. Yeah, white. There's a shelf with like, there's a shelf, okay, so you walk in, there's a shelf, and then there's
I make
another
that
shelf.
one
One color's the shade.
Not very much.
So what did you? So for this one, you're gonna use white and red or whatever color you want. And then blue, so white and blue and then black and blue. And you can have all of it, you can have like white and red. Okay, here's my like, so I use blue and
I'd have to have it, but I can work it. I don't work on it.
There's my example.
Now we have.
Which is like your grade up now.
Oh, okay.
What grade is it?
English or?
Good, cool. Do you have any questions? The square?
Oh, no, I need your help about the speed.
Okay, give it in 1 second.
Will you call counselor?
Hang on, I gotta go to counseling.
What about counselor for?
What was your question?
Here's why I don't know why I'm so slow at saying hard.
Is it about the sphere or the square, the cube?
Oh, yeah, I need help on the speed.
On the cube? Okay, cool. I'm doing the cube right now. And then I'll come over after. Okay, so for the cube, remember on the last one how we used just like the plain color? The top we use the light color, the side we use the darker color. You can kind of look at what you did on the sphere. So my lightest color was orange. So that means the top of my cube is going to be orange. If you're using purple and yellow, the top of your cube would be yellow. If you're using red and green, That one maybe it would be green. Okay, so for the side, I'm just gonna mix on my palette. I don't know if you can see this. A little bit of orange and blue.
What color is that?
I used a little bit of orange and blue, but like not a bunch, because on the next one I want to have my darkest color. So I'm gonna use a lot more blue. Cool. After I paint this, I'll come around and show you up close and then help you out. So then the side on the right, I'm gonna use more blue than I did in the last one. And then use that, add a little more blue for my cast shadow. Okay, and then your worksheet will look something like this when completed. Yay! I'll come around.